This is a fragrance about memory, identity, and capitalism. Because sometimes a scent isn't just a scent, it's a symbol, a monument to a legacy, a flex of power in a bottle. Bleu de Chanel exclusif isn't just another flanker, it's a calculated act of brand myth-making. Controlled, deliberate, and wrapped in an air of exclusivity. One that asks, what does it mean to belong to a story that was never yours to tell? So what is Bleu de Chanel exclusif? A reassertion of dominance in a world where they once disrupted? Or is it a perfume-shaped mirror reflecting not who we are, but who a global luxury brand wants us to be? What does that even mean? Hey friends, Ash here, welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're well. Chanel has finally released what will probably be the biggest scent of the year, Bleu de Chanel exclusif, and it is pricey. $275 US for this 100 ml size bottle, $205 for a 60 ml, so you can save a lot. I bought mine from Macy's, which as of this minute, I think is really where you're gonna find it, because right this second, even on Chanel's website, it's like counting down to when it's released, but if you go physically into a Macy's store, they have them right there on the counter and you can purchase them. After tax, I think it was like $296. So it is now firmly in niche prices, and not like entry-level niche prices, like $300 bottle. And I know some people are gonna make fun and be like, oh, if you can't afford Chanel, you're broke. It's expensive, man. It's crazy nuts expensive for a designer, a mainline designer. So this is obviously gonna have a ton of hype behind it, but it also has kind of a weird story behind it as well, which I'm gonna try to run through here really quickly. If you're not interested in that, you can skip forward to this time and go ahead and kick off the official review. But if you want a little tea behind the scenes, I got that for you here. So in late June, I did a video talking about this one as an upcoming release, as I've done for a long time now. And Chanel copyright struck the video through the DMCA process on YouTube, which is basically a way for brands or copyright holders to say, hey, we have the copyright of XYZ, and they used it in a way that breaches DMCA. Take that video down, thank you very much, and strike the channel. The deal with strikes is if you get 3 within a certain time frame, your channel goes by, it disappears. And when I got the copyright strike, I thought to myself, that doesn't seem like Chanel. And you may say, well, why would you think that? Well, I'll tell you. This is word for word how the copyright strike was presented. So when you logged on to YouTube and you checked the copyright strike, this is what the brand put. This is exactly word for word, letter for letter, how it came across. The copyright work is the picture of our new perfume in the video, and the video itself, since it has not been authorized yet, we did not authorize this release. And then under that, leak of our new perfume, Chanel Le Bleu l'Exclusif, not released yet. Copyright of the picture itself of the perfume. It's a very confidential product. The product is very confidential. Now I know maybe English as a second language and everything, but you would think a company as big as Chanel probably wouldn't submit it looking like that. Oh, and one other red flag, it was a Gmail address. Yeah, Gmail, just a free Gmail address was the one that submitted the claim. So I was like, that's surely not Chanel, right? And also, one little thing that I left out, this fragrance was already listed on Douglas Spain, which is their official stockist in Spain. It would be akin to this being listed on Macy's in the US. And it was. It was there with the name, pictures, everything. And so at that point, it is publicly available. And it was there for close to 2 weeks. And also right after that, it was listed on the Faroe Islands duty-free website, which is kind of weird, but it was there. And so my argument back was, well, you can't claim copyright because the whole reason it was submitted was, this is confidential, it's not released, you can't talk about it unless we say so. You can't claim that when it's already publicly available to the world. And so I submitted a counter notification, and actually YouTube at that time told me it actually is Chanel because I still thought it wasn't. And they gave me the Chanel IP email address, and I reached out to them and said, guys, what's going on? It's readily available. And then Chanel's response to that was essentially, yeah, our partner screwed up, but you still can't talk about it because of our confidentiality. The issue with that is I have never signed an NDA with Chanel. There is no expectation of confidentiality once something is already publicly available. And also DMCA takedowns are for copyright, not confidentiality, so it doesn't really matter. And Chanel actually tried to recall that email where they told me, you know, Douglas Spain did indeed list it, but they're the ones that screwed up. They tried to recall it, but I had already seen the email. And this isn't something where they were just targeting me. They targeted a lot of different channels and also across different social media platforms as well. And I have a contact within Chanel, a PR person who reached out to me when Superleggera came out, and they offered to send me Superleggera. I said, it's okay, I've already got it, I don't need it. But they did take down my address, and they've sent me just random packages before of stuff that I didn't ask for, but they sent it along, which is nice. I've not featured any of it because, you know, if I'm gonna feature it, it's gonna be something I spend $300 for at Macy's, I guess. But I had that contact anyway, so I reached out to them and I said, hey, what's going on? And they basically said, look, we want to control the launch. We want to control the narrative of the launch specifically. And so they said, we hope that you're not mad at us, but yeah, that video got struck and we just struck a whole bunch of them. And what ultimately happened after the end of all of this, a little more back and forth with Chanel, with the PR people at Chanel, but what ultimately happened was the video got reinstated, the strike was removed, and so I won the counter notification with Chanel. But yeah, that's been going on with this behind the scenes, but it will not affect at all my review because nothing really does. I don't really care at the end of the day. What it is what it is, right? All right, all that out of the way, let's go ahead, let's take a look at this presentation so we can start talking the fragrance. First off, the box. Obviously, you're going to notice this is more of a cube design, same thing with the bottle. On the front, similar to the Parfum. You have the name of the fragrance, name of the house, size and concentration. Parfum is that concentration, 100 mils the size. With the Chanel logo up top. On the back, you have your ingredient information. Then on the bottom, you have your badge code and your barcode. Badge code 1601. And here we have the bottle, which essentially looks like the Parfum 50 mil as far as the size from the front, the dimensions, just fatter. So it's like a 50 mil kind of hit the buffet, essentially. On the front, you have the name of the fragrance and house, Bleu de Chanel L'Exclusif. Same color scheme as before, that kind of dark blue, almost black glass. And then the text in the same color, essentially, as the Parfum edition. You have the Chanel logo on top of the cap. You have your Chanel information on the bottom. Badge code is etched on the back of the bottle at the bottom. And the cap is, of course, magnetic. And let's go ahead and do a couple sprays. There we go, atomizer is good. Now let's go ahead and sit Parfum up here too. Now, as I said, this is pricey, very expensive. 275 bucks for the 100 mil, 205 for the 60 mil. It almost feels like Chanel looked at, you know, Dior Sauvage Elixir, YSL Y Elixir, and they were like, we can go a little bit more expensive than them. Oh, they're at 199, 205. Just a little bit more. Oh, 265 for the 100 mil. Bump it up, 10 bucks. Basically, they were just like, we're the bosses here. We're gonna be a little bit pricier than you. And also, we're not gonna be called Elixir, we're gonna be L'Exclusif. When everybody knows that it is basically the competitor to the Elixirs, but they don't wanna be called Elixir because that would just be too passé. Ultimately, I don't really care at the end of the day. The flanker name matters very little to me outside of the occasional joke about an elixir. So how does it open up? How does it smell? Well, it opens up very rich, bold, substantial. It just has a flicker of fresh spice when you first spray it on, and then you have this great woodiness that comes out. It's lightly sweet, it is dense. There's gonna be a little bit of overlap between the Exclusif and the Parfum, but they definitely do their own things, and side by side, it's unmistakable. Unmistakably different, I should say. Because the Parfum, it opens up with some bright citrus, like a little sprig of mint, much more fresh and aromatic when you compare it side by side with Exclusif. The Parfum, which up until this point had been, you know, the deep, rich, elegant Bleu de Chanel, smells just way fresher, comparatively speaking, to Exclusif. It has this cleaner lift to it. That lavender comes in pretty quickly, whereas L'Exclusif, again, that fresh spice pop initially, which quickly segs into dense, rich woodiness and this ambery facet that smells fantastic. And that amber and Bleu de Chanel exclusif, it has this kind of like fizzy cola sweetness to it almost. Like when you smell it right up close, that's the best way to describe it. It's like Coca-Cola in fragrance form, but melding together with these other notes so it doesn't become like a sticky, sweet bubblegum bomb. It's more so just this really sexy, light, effervescent sweetness that's kind of like bubbling through the woodiness, like this little bit of cola syrup that's kind of drenched over top. And it stays anchored to that warm, resinous sweetness and woods right there in the opening, and that's gonna continue through into the dry down. Whereas Parfum, this one is gonna be more aromatic, woody, and it doesn't have that deep sweetness that Exclusif has. As it heads into the mid, Bleu de Chanel Exclusif has an incense that pops out. It gets this smokiness that starts to become more prominent. That cola-esque sweetness kind of steps back. You know, it's not in your face, it's not aggressive. And that's one thing that this fragrance never really is. It doesn't scream, it doesn't shout. That woodiness grows more prominent the longer that it stays on your skin. It's almost like a slightly dark, spiced woodiness that is accented by a deep labdanum. And the way the labdanum comes across, it has this supple kind of leather characteristic to it. It adds texture, it adds gravitas, you know, it gives it just that little extra push. The effect of that makes the fragrance rich, makes it polished, refined. It's like the scent equivalent of a perfectly tailored suit. That's how this one comes across. It has a subtle, mysterious edge to it, which helps it work extremely well as an evening fragrance. And again, in comparison to the Parfum through the mid, it's woodier, it has more of that amber, it has more of that deep richness to it. And by comparison, the Parfum almost smells airy to an extent. It's quite different. Now, all that said, you can tell that this is a Bleu de Chanel. So it has some of that DNA, you know, some of those characteristics of the other fragrances in the line, but it clearly is trying to be the more buttoned up of the line. The dry down, a little bit more of the same, ambery, warm, luxuriously rich, and that incensey kind of smoky waft that you get in the mid, you get more of that as you hit the far dry down in L'Exclusif. The woods are still at the forefront, classy, nuanced, sophisticated, and really that together with the little bit of a leathery aspect from the labdanum, that ambery sweetness, it blends seamlessly together, and it has the makings of just like the perfect, elegant evening fragrance. Like higher end, after dark territory. That's really how this comes across. Now, is it worth that price point? I don't know about that. I mean, it is aggressively expensive, but it does smell high-end in a Bleu de Chanel kind of way. And easily, when you compare this to even the Parfum, the Eau de Parfum, the Eau de Toilette, this is the most formal Bleu de Chanel. It's the most dressed up, it's the richest, the most luxurious, all of those things. Perfect for fall and winter time. And it would be a good evening scent in general, outside of, you know, middle of summer when it's really hot and humid outside, depending on where you are. I'd go for something else in those situations. But outside of that, this is a perfect nighttime fragrance. If you're looking for something that's a little bit classier, a little bit dressier, but still has that nice sexy edge to it. Performance, excellent, like you would think. It lasts a long time on your skin. Like I sprayed it on this morning, right here, still going. Now that being said, it is not as much of a projection monster as something like Sauvage Elixir. Sauvage Elixir off my skin is stronger. It projects harder, gets you noticed easier in terms of that bold, aggressive, attention-grabbing kind of feel. But when you smell this fragrance, it's not the same kind of thing as Sauvage Elixir. Sauvage Elixir is a little more outgoing in a way. This one, a little more reserved. It has more of that deep Parfum style, if that makes sense. You know, it's making its presence known, but it's not shouting. It just maintains that steady, magnetic presence. It's always there, it's always noticeable. It's just not trying to necessarily fill up the entire room, it's just trying to fill up that space around you. Now, one thing about this fragrance, if we're talking versatility, straight up versatility, nothing else matters right now, we're just talking that. This is probably the least versatile of all the Bleu de Chanels. And I'm not saying that to knock the scent, I'm not saying that to put it down, but just when you compare it to, say, the Eau de Toilette or the Eau de Parfum, I mean, those two you can use really whenever you want. Doesn't matter. Daytime, evening, any season, you can pull it off, especially the Eau de Parfum. Now, the Parfum, which is the one this one is gonna get compared to most often, this one is a little bit more leaning toward evening, a little bit more towards classier occasions, fall, winter, spring, you know, that kind of thing. But because it has that freshness, because it has that aromatic touch to it, this one does have a little more versatility. Whereas this one is gonna hit you pretty much straight off the bat with woods, amber, kind of a leathery facet to it, you know, bits of sweetness that kind of pop and fizz and then dry down to more of a rich, luxurious kind of sweetness. There's a hint of freshness off the top, but you know, not too much. That's not really what this one is about. And then you get that bit of smokiness that kind of comes through. For a Bleu de Chanel, it's not the type of fragrance that is made to be worn middle of summer, right? Or all year round, you know, daytime, nighttime, casual, office, formal, you know, it does it all. Not really. This one leans, like I said, a little more evening use, fall, winter, a little more formal, a little sexier, and really solid for a date potentially as well. But if you're just ranking them on versatility, just that's it. It's probably Eau de Parfum number 1, then Eau de Toilette, then Parfum, then this one. Some people can make an argument that Parfum should be higher than Eau de Toilette, but I think if we're just talking any situation, Eau de Toilette, a little more versatile. So basically what you have here with Bleu de Chanel L'Exclusif is taking that elegance of the Parfum and then saying, can we push this a little further? Can we make it, you know, deeper, more luxurious, a little bit darker? Take it even more into that classy evening ready realm. And that's what they did. And to me, easily the most sophisticated of the whole lineup. This is evening ready Bleu de Chanel. When the dress code calls for something sharp, this will crush. Now, is it worth that price point? I mean, realistically, probably not. Essentially 300 bucks after tax. Like I said, it was like $296 for me. It is taking the ridiculousness of designer prices, which are completely absurd with a lot of these nowadays, and pushing that even further, which I'm not a massive fan of. You know, like I was making fun of YSL Y Elixir when it came out at 180 for a 60 mil. This one's 205. I do think fragrance-wise that this is better than Y Elixir, but still, you get what I'm saying. So the price, out of control, but the scent itself, really, really good. Thankfully, because if they had botched this and been yet another, you know, massive hyped release that everybody's excited for, then it comes out and the stuff sucks, that would be a massive letdown. But thankfully, they did not screw the pooch here. Outside of being overly aggressive towards people who are just talking about it because they're excited that they're doing a new release, I mean, maybe that's a little ham-handed. And all that's going to do ultimately is cause more people to not want to talk about Chanel. That's the only real negative part, because the fragrance itself smells fantastic. Yes, too expensive, but smells absolutely fantastic. It's just that whole feeling of constantly being under threat if you talk about Chanel, whether it's in a good way or not. That kind of sours a lot of people. Love the scent though. Olivier Paul's absolutely crushed it. So there we go, guys. That is the new BDC. If you have a Macy's nearby in the US, feel free to stop in, spray it on, check it out. I will say the very first time I sprayed it, completely underwhelmed. That was in Macy's. I grabbed the tester, sprayed it on, and I was like, but then when I got it back and gave it a couple wears, it was a lot better. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.